I've personally used this exact closing sequence I'm going to show you today to close over 184 deals all the way up to 18K, completely via sell by chat. And these weren't just cold leads. These were conversations that started right in the DMs. And here's the thing. Once you understand the structure, you can replicate it. You'll know exactly what to say, when to say it, and how to guide a prospect from a casual chat to closing a high-ticket deal without feeling pushy, salesy, or fake. But there's one step that most closers skip that completely destroys the conversion, and I'll show you exactly where that happens in the process. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the entire closing sequence from the moment of initiating the conversation to framing, discovery, handling the objections, and seeing the deal. By the end, you have a repeatable system that you can use over and over again with a much highest likelihood of closing the deal. The first step of a closing sequence is the pre-frame and building up rapport again. Now, if you haven't, I did a video on how to qualify the prospect, how to actually get them to this point where they want to hop on a chat with you. That already sets a good pre-frame in itself. But the thing is, between when you booked the call and to now, you have to build out the rapport again. You got to get them back on the emotional high. So one of the things that I like to do to kind of initiate the conversation is I'll kind of ask them, how are you? You know, the casual stuff, but I'll ask them about the weather. It may be because I'm British, that's why I ask it, but I purely do that because I can be like, hey, honestly, it's been so hot here recently. I just can't deal with this hot weather anymore. What's it like where you are? And then they'll be like, oh, well, here it's like this weather and this. And then it gives them something that they can kind of resonate with and something that they can kind of buy into, which is, oh yeah, I'm from here. This is what the weather's been like recently. And it's just kind of like this, not nostalgic thing, but it's something that they can buy into and understand because they're talking about themselves. Most people like talking about themselves. That's why I do it. Once the rapport is kind of established, what I usually say is, hey, I really appreciate you hopping on. By the way, thanks for watching the video prior. Now, typically, it's up to you what you want to do, but I send a video prior to the conversation just to hype them up a bit more and kind of show the product or the service in itself. Then I say, what I'll do is, I'll just want to ask a couple more questions and clarify a few things first. Then, if it makes sense and we both think it's a good fit, I'll shoot you through my offer with all the details. How does that sound? It's just having a pre-frame. Now, the caveat to that is you can use this when you're quite a fast chatter. But if you know that the conversation's going to take a little bit longer, I like to set a time frame. So I might say something like, hey, really appreciate you hopping on. Thanks for watching the video prior. What I'll do is I've got about 60 minutes today. I just want to ask a couple more questions and clarify a few things. Then if it makes sense, both think it's a good fit, I'll shoot through my offer with all the details. How does that sound? Now, in most cases, if you've done a good job in the qualifying sequence, they'll say, yeah, sounds good. Now you're moving on to the discovery. Now, there will be a light repetition to what you would have done in the qualifying sequence, but again, it's just to clarify to them why they're here. Keep reminding them of the problem that they have, and what you're doing by reminding them is you're putting them through a pain cycle. If they're on the chat and they're just sat there in their pain that they have, and you just keep repeating it, by the end they're like, I need to solve this pain. This is awful. Like I don't want to be in this situation in 3, 6, 12 months time. That's the idea. So what I like to do is I always like to clarify why you're here and clarify their current state. So why me and why now specifically did you want to chat? That's what I start with. Or something like, where are you at right now? Just something saying, yeah, hey, look, I'm here. This is what's going on. And they can give you that explanation. Next, I like to identify the goals and their kind of dream outcome. So what are you trying to accomplish? Or where would you like to be in 12 months? Again, this is painting the picture. And if you've ever looked at some closing videos in the past, everyone calls this like the selling the destination bit or selling the vacation. It is that. It's kind of giving them what would be the dream scenario. So they're in their mind, that they're picturing it, and they're already starting buying into that vision. They're buying into that narrative of where they could be if they had your solution. And again, your solution that you are selling is the bridge between where they are now and where they're going to be with it. Once I've done that, I'm going to quantify the path. How are we actually getting to that dream outcome? I'm going to walk them through it. So how many clients would you need to sign in order to reach that goal? That's a good example, because then they can quantify it and go, okay, well, I want to get to 100,000 a year. I have to close about 6 clients depending on my ticket size. That's what I need to do. Now on your side, that's really easy to be like, oh, 6 clients, we can do that. And this is how we're going to do it. It's just so they can quantify it and get an understanding of getting to their goal. You know, if you watched a video on YouTube And I don't know what you would have searched for this, but it might say 5 steps to increasing your close rate, for example. Now, on your side, you're going, oh, it's only 5 steps. That's simple. Same thing applies here. If you can give them a simple, quantifiable action they need to take in order to get to their goal, they're more likely to buy into it. That's why I do it. Next, I might say, why don't you get the results you want right now? Or what's your biggest roadblock? It's kind of like, what's holding you back? Again, let them sit in the pain. Let them tell you their pain over and over again until it's the only thing that they're thinking about, and they're just kind of stuck there going, oh my God, I'm in this pain. I want to get rid of it as soon as possible. That's the idea. That's when I'll go even deeper. So I might say things like, can you give me an example of that? Or what exactly did you mean by XYZ? Or what specifically has been tricky about that? Just questions that go a bit deeper and get more detail about it. Again, it's analyzing the problem that they have, going deeper on it, and then you using that as ammunition in the sale. Hey, I know you mentioned this. This is what we're going to do to kind of counteract that. And this is the solution that I can present to you. That's the idea. You want them to sit in the pain and emotionally recognize the problem they have. So another example could be, how long have you been going through that for? And if they say, I've been going through this for the last 6 months, they're thinking in their mind, God, I've been in this situation for 6 months now. I've got to do something about it. Lo and behold, there you are with the solution to get out of the pain. That's the idea. One that I really like as well is, has that always been the case, or is it more recent? Again, giving the time frame. How long have you had this pain for? Because if they say, yeah, this has been happening for the last 12 months, be like, 12 months? You've been dealing with XYZ problem for 12 months? And they're like, yeah, I have been. Again, it's just re-emphasizing the pain that they're in right now. Then this is a question that I've actually only started using recently, and I wrote it down in my notes because I used it in a chat, and it was really interesting. The reason it worked was because I was having a chat with a woman, and her problem was leads. She just couldn't generate enough leads. She couldn't grow her business as a result, and that was kind of her surface level pain. That was on the surface. Now, I said to her, and this is the question that I was wanting to give to you guys, was what would achieving X goal allow you to do differently compared to now? I said that to her, and she goes, well, I'm living in a flat and I'd love to move into a house. And it was in that moment that suddenly it wasn't about fixing her business. It was about fixing her life and her lifestyle. She wanted to get out of that flat and get into a house so that she could feel like she'd accomplished something and that she'd kind of progressed in life. So now, not only is your solution solving the leads problem in my case, it's also solving her life problem, which is in a really, really small flat and wants to move into a bigger house. That's why I love this question, and I use it in every single sale now. And I instinctively try and guide the sale so I can ask that question. So what would achieving X goal, again, X goal, you insert with their goal that they're trying to achieve, that you would have got from up here. And then I say, allow you to do differently compared to now. So for her, she's in a flat, she wants to move into a house. That's what she could do differently had she been at that revenue goal or whatever the goal was. Once you have kind of gone through this, and like, again, this is a technique called looping. So you're looping the pain over and over again. You're keeping them in that cycle when they're thinking about it. Once you've kind of reached, I would say, the half an hour mark, if it's an hour chat, so about halfway through, that's when you can start to transition to the offer. And one thing I maybe forgot to mention is when they're going through this pain cycle and you're kind of putting them through it, linking case studies. Show someone who was in the same pain and who overcame that pain, or link and then show a testimonial. Send it through to them, screenshots, a video, whatever it is. Give proof that you can deliver on the promise. That's the key. So while I'm asking these questions, like, can you give an example? What exactly do you mean by that? Those questions, and then go, oh, my client Jose, for example, wasn't exactly the same problem. They were also experiencing X, Y, Z, and we helped them achieve X goal so that he was able to move out of his house or move to his dream destination, whatever it was. By giving them that, and especially if the case study resonates them with a lot, they go, wow, I could actually do this. And again, it's about quantifying it. It's saying, look, you're here, you could actually be here. And this person that you give them an example, they've done it too. And that buys into the human psychology of like community and wanting to experience something with someone else. And if you even, this is the thing that I found works the best, I will say, hey, I'll introduce you to them. And it's in that moment they go, oh wow, so that person had exactly the same pain as me, you're going to introduce me to them. And of course, now that they've got out of the pain, it's kind of giving them a passage, and it's giving them a bridge by talking to that individual to get out of their situation. So that works really well. And of course, follow through, introduce them to the individual or the case study that you showed to them. Once I've done that, I transition into the offer. So typically what I'll do is I'll summarize their situation at that point. And again, you're just clarifying the pain. So you mentioned you were struggling with a problem. And honestly, I know this is something I can help with. As you know, I worked with Jose in this example, who had the same issue and they achieved X result. So you just, again, quantifying the impact that you can have on them by achieving their goal. Once I've done that, I will say this. I will say, before I shoot through the offer with all the details, is there anything else you think I should know about your situation? That's the bit that most closers skip. What they do is they kind of quantify the pain, all of this, then they send the offer. But what you need to do is you need to get out everything that they're thinking, everything that they're experiencing, so that when you present that offer, it is the be all and end all to them. It's like, oh my God, this is what I need. That's what most people skip. And I've coached many, many people to do sell by chat and close like this. That's what they always skip. And so what happens is they present the offer and that person comes back after reading it and they have all these questions. They're like, oh, I didn't mention this. Oh, would this work for this situation? Because that's what I'm actually experiencing. Because when I ask this question, they then bring up something that they may not have mentioned yet. And it's in that moment we go, oh, well, we can help you with that. That's the idea. So I will say, before I shoot you through the offer with all the details, is there anything else you think I need to know about your situation? And it's in this moment they typically bring up something that maybe it's just like a curveball, or they might just say, no, actually that's everything. In which case, cool, present the offer. I typically, in a sell by chat conversation, I share the offer doc without the price. That's something that also closes, and by skipping it, it completely destroys the conversion. Do not put the price in there. You want them to read through the offer and clarify that it's exactly what they're looking for. Whereas what happens is, if you give them an offer doc or you give them the offer with the price, they're thinking about the price. They're not thinking about the value that you're actually going to bring to them when they close and become a client. So the other thing is, people want to feel special. So when you present the offer, make them feel special. Make them feel like it's super relevant. And what I do, and what I've done in previous companies that I worked at, I'll say, because you mentioned XYZ pain or goal, and honestly, I know I can help you with this, I actually wanted to create you a custom on the chat offer for you that would include insert bonus or extra access. Now, don't change the price. That's the worst thing you can do. When people discount it, it devalues the product or the service. Don't do that. Add in a bonus. Give them extra access if you're selling an info product or something digital. Just something where on the chat, it just gives them that like warm, fuzzy feeling that you made them feel special. Oh, wow, you're going to do this for me? That's the reaction. But then I say, but only if we both think it's a good fit. How does that sound? And they'll say yes, because they're like, yeah, I'd love to see this customer offer that you've kind of presented. Then I don't send the offer at this point. And I know that's slightly counterintuitive, but I'll clarify to them, look, if I think this is a good fit, I'll do a custom offer. And they say, yes, that's perfect. Sounds good. Then on the chat, I then send them the offer or the offer doc. And I say, here's the offer with all the details. I'll just grab a bite in the kitchen or whatever and come back in 5 minutes. Let me know once you've gone through it. Urgency. When I first started in sell by chat, I would always mess up because I'd send the offer doc and I wouldn't set the frame or a time frame on when they should read it. So what would happen was I do all the effort in the sale, go through all the motions, and I get to that point, I send the offer doc, and they go, oh cool, I'll get back to you, and then they jump off, and you lose them. And it was so infuriating in the moment because I'd done all that effort, and then they go, oh yeah, I'll get back to you. And worse of all, I hadn't booked a second meeting to let them follow up. So don't do that. Instead, give them urgency and a time frame. Here's your all the details. I'll just grab a bite from the kitchen and come back in 5 minutes. Let me know once you've read it through. Then wait 5 minutes. Then I message, I'm back. Did you have any other questions at all? Even if it might be minor. What happens then is because the price isn't in the doc, they're clarifying if it's a fit for themselves. And in the previous videos, we went through the 6 gates of trust. They're clarifying if it fits their identity because you're at that gate 6, you're at the last part now. So that's what they're doing. And in most cases, they will have questions or objections as well. That's the other thing. So when it comes to handling objections, what I do is over time, I might build up a sheet where I will kind of put objections in there and know how to handle them and what's been has a high success rate of getting over that objection in the past. And I've given some examples here. So if someone says objection is this just isn't a good time right now, I will use a framework called acknowledge, address, ask. And this derives from Alex Hormozi, one of my favorite entrepreneurs. And what that means is if the objection is this just isn't a good time right now, I'll say I'll acknowledge it. That makes sense. I completely get it. Then I'll address it. What if we structured this so it only took 30 minutes a day? Would that work for you? And then in most cases, they'll be like, yeah, no, that works. I'm like, great, should we get started? Or another example is, this is just too expensive. Now, of course, at this point, like I said, you haven't presented the price. I just wanted to give an example of what using that framework looks like. This is too expensive, acknowledge, that's super reasonable. I completely understand that. Address, if working with us saves you a year of trial and error, would it be worth it? And they'll probably say yes. And then you go, perfect, should we move forward? So it's just over time, you'll start to get an understanding, you'll recognize the patterns of what objections come up quite frequently. And all that takes is when it comes up, have a notepad next to you, I have mine here, and literally just write down the objection. And then later you can go, okay, obviously in the chat, you'll try and use an objection to overcome, but later write it down. If it worked, write it down. And what that means is over time, you'll have a book or a little like couple of pages with all the objections that you've had over time, and you'll know how to overcome them. And you'll just increase your success rate of overcoming the objection. But the key bit here is that you present the offer and then you say, did you have any questions, even if they might be minor? Get all the objections out before you present the price. That is the key. And like I said, if you have a stack of these objections over time, what that means is in the actual sales process itself, whether that's in the open, whether that's in the qualifying sequence, whether that's in the closing sequence, you can start to kind of implement little suggestions that overcome these objections early. So you're pre-handling it before they even have a chance to say it. So in the language that you're using and the things that you're saying, you should start to kind of over time, just iterate, make it better, until during that process, you're already pre-handling the objections and you're already bringing it up. All right, most people mention about time. We've actually got this thing where we'll give you extended access or whatever it may be. It just means that when you do come say, hey, do you have any questions? You've already kind of taken care of them. Like, actually, no, it all makes sense. And again, it's about increasing the likelihood that they will close. That's why I do it. Once you've pre-handled these objections and you have your sheet of paper and you've done the objection handling, now you get to move on to the price. So what I like to do is I like to make it feel quite bespoke. And because earlier you've said that you want to do a custom offer, send them through a doc with their name on it. And it says, hey, this is, for example, my name is Ewan Davis's custom offer. They might say that at the top. And then you present the offer with the extra bonus, the extra access, whatever it is that's included. And then you send that through to them. And I'm going to do a whole kind of episode on pricing, but just a little subtlety. You always want to have a price anchor. So in that doc, what you want to do is You want to have something which is super expensive. So this is like something, I don't know, you go to their house, you teach them in person, you just give them this incredible service. And that's like the most expensive thing in the world. And it's, I mean, obviously you'd be hyped if someone bought it, but it's unlikely. And then you do the actual offer that you want them to purchase underneath, which is a lot less. It's just so it anchors it. They're like, oh, well, it's a no-brainer. I'll go for that one. That's the idea. But I'll do a whole kind of episode on pricing at some point, because it's a really important part of the close and just making sure that it's framed correctly. Once you've sent them through the pricing, you go into the assumptive close. So this is quite direct, but it works. Is it something you like to get started with? Or does this make sense to get started now? Just after you say it, pause. Don't say anything else. Don't send another message. Don't send a follow-up. Just wait. And again, this is something that most closers don't do. Again, this will more applies to when they're on a call, but they'll ask for the sale and they just can't deal with like, a couple of seconds of silence, and then they'll say something else. You have to close. Just sit there and be quiet. Now the same applies on sell by chat. Just be quiet. Don't send anything else. See what they say. And again, all of these frameworks that I'm going through now, yes, I'm doing this so it's applicable to sell by chat. This can all be applicable to a call as well, by the way. That they go in hand. And what I found really interesting is when I started with sell by chat, I didn't actually do calls first. I did sell by chat. Then when I got on calls, it was so natural. It was fine. It worked because the skill sets you get from both, they go hand in hand and they cross over. So if you learn sell by chat first, if you learn calls first, it doesn't matter, you'll be able to do both. It's just about transferring that skill set and doing it on a chat instead or on a call. If you qualified and you framed the chat correctly and you did well in the qualifying sequence, they will say yes. And when they say yes, the sale is not over. Most people, when they get a yes, they switch off and they lose the sale because the person then gets an uneasy feeling because they're not as interested in them as well. And that's the key. You want to be interested in the individual that you're talking to. Show genuineness. Show that you're interested in their situation and actually want to help them solve it. So what I do is once I've asked them for the close, so I said, is this something you'd like to get started with? Or is this something that makes sense? I'll say, awesome. I'm super pumped to work with you. This is going to be so good. I can't wait for you to see what we've built. What are you most looking forward to? The reason I ask that is because I'm hyping them up. I'm getting them hyped. They're like, oh, I'm so excited about this. I can't wait for this. I want to solve this. It's just keeping them on what I like to call the emotional wave. The whole process from start to finish is about getting them to the top of this wave. And by asking that question, you're just pushing the wave up and the wind's blowing up the wave a little bit more so that they're on this emotional high. Once they've come back and you've kind of said, what are you most looking forward to? I usually say, that's epic, can't wait for you to experience this. I just made you a custom link for that offer that you presented in the doc. Would you like me to shoot it through to you now? And again, you're just asking for permission. Can I send you through this link? They will always say yes, if you've hyped them up properly. Send them through the link and then set the expectations. Most people get this wrong because what you want to say is you want to say exactly what's going to happen next. And then those things have to happen because for them, it's just validation that they've made a good decision. Because you're going to say, hey, this is going to happen next. Then I'm going to introduce you to the onboarding team. They're going to get you set up and started, whatever it is. And they're going, okay. And then when they go through that process, it's just validation. Okay, that actually happened. So that means that the goal that I want to get to will actually happen. It's all about the perception of your product and the perception of your service. That's why you do it. So I usually say, here's your custom link to get started. I'll put like a Stripe link or something. Once payment is made, X, Y, Z will happen. And this is the key. I'll wait here to make sure it all works. And then I can walk you through the next steps. Again, what used to happen to me at least, this is where I went wrong, is I send the link and I wouldn't say anything after. And then they wouldn't pay because I didn't set the frame. And I didn't say you need to pay now so I can walk you through the next steps. And so they go, oh yeah, I'll get back to this later. And I was sat there on the screen and I was like, oh my God, I messed up. So don't make that mistake. Instead, say, I'll wait here to make sure it all works. Then I'll walk you through the next steps. So set the frame so that they pay then and there. And that's it. I will do something on the onboarding stuff in the future, I'm sure. But again, that is a very personal thing to your own business and how you like to onboard someone. But that is it. The flow of the closing sequence in 8 steps. Pre-frame, build up rapport, do a light discovery where you're kind of repeating a few things in the qualifying sequence. And again, quantify it, put them through the pain cycles, then transition to the offer, present the offer and make them feel special, give them a special bonus, extra access, whatever it is. Then handle the objections. So have they got any questions? If they do, overcome the objections. Then present the pricing, again in a doc where you want a really super expensive one which anchors the price of the actual offer that you want them to buy. Put it in there and add to a little custom doc which has their name at the top, make it feel bespoke. Then I start to close. Is this something you'd like to get started with? Or would you like to get started? Most cases, if you've done it right, they'll say yes. Then you want to hype them up. What are you most looking forward to? Push up that wave, put them on the emotional high, and then finally walk them through the onboarding process. And congratulations, you've just signed a client through Subway Chat. That is the process. Hopefully that all makes sense. Below, I'm going to be adding a qualified call booster kit, and it is literally all of these scripts that I run through in this entire series that you can use, copy, and immediately implement in your own business in Subway Chat. And that will be below. And I'll put a link to it and you can get access to it immediately and use all of these frameworks immediately. The closing sequence part I am adding in the next few days, but at the moment you already have the open, the qualifying sequence, proposing the call, and following up. And you can go through that there and then. Hope you enjoy this, and I will see you in the next episode.